Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Secret Behind the Red Doors. This is Big Mark here. Nice to be back on again with my boys here. Had a little short hiatus, but we're back. I hope everything is well. Thank you for all the subscribers and the guys liking my stuff. Some of your comments. You guys are very positive. I'm just trying to tell you the real stories from back in a great era. We're not spreading no hate like a lot of other people. It's all spreading good stuff and the truth. Um, Also, I'm gonna have my Cash App is up there. If you guys can help out, we're trying to ramp up the speed of getting the production into a steady flow. Kevin will be back here this week. He's got his family and his grandkids down here. So I gave him a break. He's dying to get back in here. Well, he'll be back here next week. Um, Last time we spoke, I talked to you about, stories that nobody ever heard of. And, they're important that people know the truth about certain people. A lot of people go on the internet and tell fake stories or lies. We're not going to do that. So I want you to enjoy the old stories and the truth I tell you. These are guys I met with. I'm not telling you stories about guys I never seen or hung out with or heard about. If I didn't hang out with them and interact with them, I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to say, yeah, I know them. Nice guy. That's it. But the stories about John are not only legendary, but, listen, John was an underdog. And I'm telling people about being an underdog is a big deal in that life. Um, you know, every morning going to the Bergin, you had the same crew in there early. And I got to explain something to you how great it was. You'd be like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Guys be having coffee or, eating breakfast from a roll from a diner across the street from Nick's. And, the guys be looking at a racing form or reading a newspaper or just having a conversation. Then all of a sudden, John would walk in. Now, I'm going to give you an idea. When John would come into the club, that's just before he had his office next door. This was in the early 80s. The door would open, he would come in, and I'm telling you, 8, 9, 10 guys were in there. All of a sudden, the personalities changed. They'd light up. It's like the room lit up. This was, wasn't just guy stood up, said hello to him, and the energy. He just like he brought this. And listen, I know because it's John. He was, he was in charge there, but it's not the point. And he didn't walk in with a bad mood. If he did have a bad mood, you'd find out. But he'd walk in, say good morning, how you doing? And he'd walk in, and if he was serious, I got to talk to Pete or talk to Jack. But the place would light up and get active. And that contrast that's a little epitome of the connection of John in the Bergen, I guess, in other places. But his personality was electric like that. You know, his brothers were different. Angelo was more. Johnny's had some energy. All good guys, but so the funny thing is, so this reminds me like Wednesday night. If you had the Wednesday night famous dinners, I'm going to tell you about the dinners. I don't care who's out there. They can't tell you the dinners like I can tell you this. This is in the 80s. After they cook, whatever was on the menu, be chicken, steaks, whatever is it was always pasta and salad on the menu. And, the bread came from the best bakeries, and, the meat was cut up by Joe the Butcher. Nice, good meat, not garbage packaged meat. But you'd have John at the head of the table. You have Angelo. And you would have I'm going to name a bunch of them: Arnold, Fonzie, Frankie Dapp, Frankie the Chico would come, but Patty Boxcars, Patsy Conti would come with his guys. There was guys come from the Bronx, Frankie Loke, even guys like Georgia Camacho would come. These guys all would come down the line from different crews from Brooklyn, Staten Island, Joe the Cat, Joe Watts. You know what I mean? Tony Pep. Then sometimes Tony Lee would come in. It would just build up and a table would flow and it would go down the line to the first 30 people. So you can imagine a room and a conversation with these people. And this was every Wednesday, unless something happened. And even guys like us, you could sit at the end of the table. Most of us, like guys like me, Tommy, or guys would stand behind a bar, Jackie, and eat, and some of the guys wanted espresso. I would make espresso from the machine, and Jimmy Irish would give it to him. But this flow went all day, that evening. And they weren't jobs. We didn't get paid to this. This was just part of that structure that John wanted. That this is his friends, and the guys from the different families that came in to see him. And it was just about just being around that energy and that personality. I mean, a lot of it was laughs. A lot of it was just eating, enjoying the food, and telling old stories. So guys like me would pick up them stories because a lot of them were kind of, you never heard things like that. Like Johnny used to have. Johnny loved to gamble and bet horses, bet sports, but loved horses. Loved to go to a racetrack. But Johnny used to have guys giving him tips. There was a guy, Alley Boy. Alley was the gambler. He owned a horse stable. They were good friends. Johnny would give him hot sides. This was this old action. This betting pattern. Where Gene would bet a couple days a week. He bet his bets and horses. Johnny had sports and horses. Then you had guys who come around just taking numbers. Give me $100 on a number. Billy would take Johnny, give me 200 on a number. That pretty much was a daily routine. Now you could picture it. I don't care what you see in the press or the news, but you could picture this scenario. Summertime, couple chairs outside, guys relaxing. When you heard that story about that so-called prosecutor that prosecuted John in that first case, what's her name? I forgot her last name. What do you say? The girl Diane. Oh, they used to make fun of me when I walked by. Listen to me. And I'm telling you the truth. Johnny, you couldn't talk bad about people. You couldn't say nothing derogatory. You had to be respectful. And that was it. Nobody was afraid to walk on that side of the street. So that neighborhood, I talk about this before. I'm not talking about detail. So now I'd watch guys walk in, Ernie Boy, DB, all these different guys come to see John. I'm telling you, from Astoria, from the Bronx, from Long Island, and just come even for 15, 20 minutes. And, he wasn't a boss then. So you see the buildup. So, and Johnny used to laugh about it. And sometimes in the car, oh man, what is that? Be a guy from a different crew, oh, what does he want? He always come in when he got a problem, wants to talk to me. God, they leave me alone today. It was kind of intoxicating to watch, so, but if Johnny had something bad to say about somebody, it was only because an experience. Johnny wouldn't talk bad about somebody he didn't know or have interactions with. But like I said, there's a lot of cheapskates, a lot of, guys you couldn't trust. Johnny would lay it right out. Says, it's part of, what do you say? It's my necessary evil. I got to meet with the guy and talk to the guy, but I don't trust him as far as I could throw him, we used to say. Another saying. So, but just like when I used to go, listen, I told you a story about Frankie Loke, but about Arnold and Funzy, or even Bobby Gaboy from Jersey too. These are guys, that's his nickname. I used to meet him in the racetrack. He used to go to Monmouth Park. I go there with Bobby Burriello. Bobby's there. We hanging out in the outside terrace, betting horses, having a blast. One day, so Johnny gives me a horse room. They have a business. Bobby had a club on President Street. So he says to me, Johnny comes to me, listen. He says, you're going to open up a horse room in Bobby's club. I'm going to put the satellite dish with TV. He says, you're going to run it. I'll give you a piece of the action, give you a paycheck. You run it. Pete, Iggy, and Bobby are partners with us. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to get a piece of it. You're going to get a paycheck. And he tell me, make sure don't give Bobby no money. Because he knew Bobby loved to gamble. But that scenario was hard because Bobby was infectious. If you ever met Bobby Burriello, stand-up guy, he goes back to the crazy Joe Gallo days. I mean, that's Bobby, serious guy. But, his getting killed, I actually cried. I had tears in my eyes because, and in the way he got killed in his, in his, driveway of his house. I don't know how it happened, and it's crazy. And when I went to the wake, I just felt so bad because here was a guy who was full of life. But so Bobby, give me $50, give me $200, give me $100. Bobby, no, I'll put it back. And in the beginning, he would come back, take $200 off of you. Right later on, he dropped the 200 off. So but that was Bobby's. A lot of guys like that from the street. They had this trick. They how do they say? They amuse you a little bit. They make it look real. Then after that, Bobby says, "Give me 300. Just write it down on the list." Then it started writing down on a pad. Bobby took 300. Iggy come by, give me 200. Um, that was that life. Even though he drove Johnny around. I'm gonna tell you a story about John's drivers. I had a question asked to me by a comment about Nunzi. Johnny was the driver. I know Nunzi well. Me and Nunzi worked together in Tony Lee and Joe Cat's number business. But Johnny went through drivers. The first driver I ever met Johnny with was, besides Willie Boy. Willie Boy drove him a lot. Was Redbird Gnomes from Rhode Island. Tough guy, serious guy. Time in jail. Redbird was one driver. Then from that, he went to Nunzi. And then from Nunzi, he went to Bobby Borriello. And then from Bobby Borriello, he went to little Jojo was driving Carrazza. And then from there, he went from Jackie Nose driving him. So I tend to believe that maybe it was tough being a driver for John because he was always out, always moving around, and your life was pretty much a mess, which I could understand it. So he went through drivers like some restaurants go through chefs, but that was his personality because John was busy. But, it was the kind of situation where sometimes, I never forget a story. So I'm going to mention a guy, Mark Ryder, just died in prison. Tried to get released. He was sick. They never released him. Tall, handsome guy. I knew Mark. I knew Mark, he was in the Shylock business. I didn't care about anything else, but nice guy. So one day he says to me, he goes, I had to go to the Ravenite. And I drove down and I went down to Ravenite. I don't know who was Willie Boy Angela had to pick up something. So, and so Mark comes out to me, listen, I got to go with John. We're going out for the night. Mark had a 560 SL Mercedes, 2-seater. He said, here's my keys. Take my car, Mark. I don't want to leave it on Mulberry Street. It'll get ticketed to the way. Take my car for the night. Do what you want. Call me tomorrow. He says, you're not my number. He wrote that his number. Call me at my apartment tomorrow. You know where I live. I had an apartment. I think it was on 60th or 61st and 1st Avenue. Big, top floor apartment. And Mark was always a sharp dresser, handsome guy, tall. Take my car. So now you got to understand something. I'm a 21, 22-year-old kid. I'm driving a brand new 560 Mercedes Sportster around. So, the first thing you go look for is, go out. You want to meet somebody in the car, make believe it's yours, real stupid. But I had the car for it. So the next day, I call him up. Says, you know where I live? He says, I don't know. He gives me the address. Pull into the garage, tell the guy you come to see me and bring my car. I go up, he had this penthouse apartment, whatever, gorgeous apartment, gave him the car, he comes out, he says, come on, I'll drop you off at the Ravenite. He says, you go home with somebody else, go back to Queens with somebody else. And had this conversation. He goes, listen, you want to go to any clubs, you want to go to a tunnel, Club A, wherever you want to go, let me know. I'll get you in. I'll call the guy up to get you in. But Mark was a very friendly guy. He didn't have to be him. I mean, if he liked you, he liked you. Wasn't a cheapskate, but, and he's a guy who just passed away in prison. I don't want to give him a shout out just because, not Italian, Jewish guy, went spent the rest of his life, died in prison. But that was the incident about driving his 560. These guys were like that, hey, take it. It was only a car, but those are incidents that, you don't see or hear about every day, that what I learned about hanging out the Bergin was, every day was an adventure. The adventure was either food, going out. We used to go to Elephas. You want a story about Elephas nightclub? Elephas was on Northern Boulevard, I think 210th Street. And I started going to Elephas. Pete would go, Tommy Steakers, Pete, Jackie, we'd all go, and I would, we would go to Elephas. Now, I was the young guy in a bunch. They were a little older than me, but Elephas was a hotshot joint. So, I'll tell you about Elephas, true story about Elephas. Elephas is famous because the son of Sam was in the place. And I'm going way back. And the truth was, they're telling the story about son of Sam was roaming around Elephas. They threw him out. He was acting weird. Talking to people, and it used to be Ray D. Ray Dietrich I think had a piece of the place with Sid. Sid Sestaro was around John, the Philly Broadway's brother. They had the place. So John, that's like Elephas was John's place. But Ray D was this big guy, workout, 6'4", workout freak. He played in a couple movies. Played in The Sorcerer. He played in a movie Once Upon a Time in America. You ever see the guys in the elevator they went to kill the Jewish kid or Noodles, and they get shot in the eye. They come in the elevator. He's a real serious guy. They come to do a hit. If you watch it, it's in the beginning of Once Upon a Time in America before it goes to the childhood. That was Ray D. But Ray D threw him out. I mean, just tossed him out. And unfortunately, that night, he ended up killing a woman, Stacy, I forgot her last name, Moskowitz, and blinding her boyfriend. They were parked down a block. So Elephant was a famous place, top, and we used to hang out there, and it was like our place. Didn't drink for nothing. These guys, it was all about business. We put them on the bar, tipped the bartenders. They were generous with their free drinks, but that was so I started getting indoctrinated, hanging out with Pete, Tommy, and all them guys, going to Elephant, going to the Gardens, going to the Riviera. Riviera was in a hotel on Conduit, and that place was a Friday night. And but he was there. There was there was different crews there that used to go frequent there, so that was me in the beginning, going to these places, and you're learning people and picking up things. I never, my foray hanging out with Junior, and then that was after John asked me to go hang out with him. He wanted me around him when he goes out. For what? I don't know, but I told you about thankless position, but I did that, but I was, but anything I did or worked, but I worked for Pete, I worked for them, I report, I was around them. So guys from other crews you see from City Line, from Liberty Avenue, from other parts of Ozone Park, we're basically friendly. We all knew each other, even in clubs, bars, walking down the street. Hey, how you doing? They knew you're from. And every once in a while, you get guys, no matter where they're from, we get into problems. And the problems would be fights, problems with arguments in bars, and problems with didn't know the rules of the street. And they had a penchant for saying, you know who I'm with, you know who I'm around. And I told you that story. John, Jeannie, and them, anybody says that, don't even hesitate. You cracked them. So you can imagine how many guys we cracked, right? I mean, it happened. And guys you knew, you had to because you broke a rule. But it got rampant later on with kids, and they weren't schooled correctly. But that neighborhood was filled with good guys and what I call shithead guys, guys wannabes. But that was the 80s. I mean, and I'm not going to talk bad about any era, 90s, 2000, but the late 70s to 90, was a powerful era. I mean, there was some guys on the street. I mean, we went to bars, restaurants, got treated like gold. I was an associate. This is about not only because we were around John, that was part of reflection, but also you earned your reputation and your respect by your actions too. And, and Johnny always said, listen, make everybody like you. Don't be mean. Don't be grumpy. Make everybody like you because it reflects on you. So, and this is from meeting Mickey Boy, Arnold, Fonzie, even Joe Messina. A disappointment, but Joe Messina. He used to come around with his brother-in-law Sal. Guys like Donnie Shacks, funny guy. Frankie Loke, serious guy, but very friendly. Talk to you, smile. You picked up these little personalities in that life. And sometimes if you're smart, you use it to your advantage. I mean, every day in that club, there was guys who were broke. Not because of John. You can't blame them guys. You blame the guys who were broke. A lot of us, when we were young, they have no guidance. Gamblers started gambling, and you took risk because you realized you thought that was going to last forever. You think that, I work in a Continental game on a Wednesday night. I'm 22 years old. I'm making $1,000 in the early 80s, cash. I'm walking home I live 3 blocks away from the club. I'm walking home. 6 o'clock in the morning from being up at night with a hop on my step. I come home, give my mother $200-300. She know, but that's a lot of money to her. But now you say, wow, this is just a start. $1,000, $1,200. Go to track for John, 50. Go to track, better go with, meet Gene at the racetrack. You'll win. He give you something. This is, it's like I told a story in a video about Angelo, about Chinese food. These guys were all underdog guys. So, they weren't, when it came to, if they liked you and and you did things for them, whatever, they didn't shortchange you. Guys wanted jobs. I could tell you, between Jeannie, Angelo, and John, all the guys, Joey, Scopo, a gem. Tough guy and a gem. Guys need a job. My uncle Angelo worked there. My cousins worked there. And the best, I never forget my cousin Angelo was close to my mother. In Italy, he was like an enforcer. Big, was a stonemason, but guys used to in Naples to go send him to solve problems or collect money. But when he came to America, and he loved my mother, he was close to my grandfather, and he got a job in local 6A, laborers union. And he worked there for years. And I remember when the feds pinched Ralphie Scopo and all them guys, and took over 6A, Angelo, broken English, saw Joey, and he says, I never forget the way he said it. Joey, everything okay? How's your father? My father's okay. He says, I'm nervous. He says, now the government that took over the union, he says, I hope, I don't lose on my pension. And Joey answered him in a way you guys don't never hear with the street and the union, but he said, listen, he says, Angelo, we didn't take our friends and our workers' pensions. We didn't make money by taking your money. So your money's there, your pension's good. And to the day he died, my mother's cousin Angel got his pension check every month. And that's the way. He says, the workers, we protect you. He says, we didn't make money by stealing from our workers. So, and that was that was their genuine, process of all these guys he gave work to. So my other cousin, I even worked in local 6A. You got to check every month. You got to check every week, paycheck, never works. So it was about that, so picking up that, being around it every day, you pick up all these, you hear guys, they're robbing pension funds, they're robbing union dues. I didn't see it. Them guys I around, the workers, especially with Joey and his father, workers got taken care of. You got your medic, you in a union, you got sick, you went to the hospital, union card paid for it. That wasn't a problem. It was, so I'm telling you them stories. So when I talk about being tough in the neighborhood, I'll tell you what the Bergin was like. From me and a couple of young guys and all the way up the ladder. If there was a fight, I tell you, we had 20, 30 guys wouldn't mind putting a bat in their hand, baseball bat in somebody. So I don't care what anybody says about who's tough. We weren't tough. We were fearless. And I was around a lot of guys who had reputations in Ozone Park who knew we were fearless and treated us like that. Treat us with respect. They stayed away from us. I was in, I was in incidents of fights of collecting money or solving a problem, with guys, and we went, we did what we had to do and taught them a lesson, and they never bothered these people again. And we didn't go there mentioning names. Oh, you know who I'm with? We went there, grabbed them, first talked to them. If they got nasty, they went to work, smacked them around and abused them, went to work on them and taught them a lesson. And that was our reputation. So we didn't walk around Ozone Park and Howard Beach. Oh, I'm from the Bergin. Never said it. If we did, we'd get chased. We get yelled at. Johnny, Jeannie, and Angela that was their structure. You never bring that up. If you don't get involved, it's something you can't handle. If you can't handle, you walk away, live to fight another day. There's a lot of guys, I hear them. This guy's this guy. You know what? All fine. If they are, they are. I don't want to talk derogatory about them because I wasn't around them. I don't know them. But I'm just telling you about my era. And you can't dispute that era. Powerful era. Is if it was, if it went from John to Ciro, Jojo, Joey Scopo, it went around. Tony Lee. This is an enclave. And from Howard Beach, Ozone Park, but you know what? It's like I said, we didn't shake down businesses. You didn't shake down. You couldn't do that. You got in trouble. If a business needed a hand and needed a favor, and they came to John and them, and they would pay them, every week, every month for the thank you of bringing their business or solving a problem. Otherwise, you could walk up and down 101st Avenue. You can tell me, they come in here and take, payments, extortion. No, you don't do that. Restaurants in the neighborhood? No, we went there and spent money. Didn't get nothing for free, and there were big tippers. So sometimes you see on TV a guys, or we walked in the neighborhood. That wasn't happening. Now, if it happened in the 20s and 30s back in the beginning, that's a different story. But you didn't see that. You saw like on some of the TV shows. Oh yeah, that guy's with me. It gives me 500. No, the guy's with you if he borrowed money, if he needed a favor, and if he needed you to bring business to him. That's when you earn money. You didn't go there. Oh, a guy opened up a store. Okay, you got to give me 50 a week in my name. Never happened. We actually went shopping there, spent money there. But if a guy had trouble, he said, "Listen, I need you guys to protect me. I need to borrow money." That was different. So that was a lot of that mechanism in life. So, so when you go on YouTube and talk to the non guys, that weren't around back then or anything, that new John, they didn't know that part of the life. Everything is not about when he was boss and forward. There's a mechanism to that life when it was a more before that, you know. So on the Secrets of the Red Doors, I told you, we're not talking bad about anybody. We're just telling our story. Um, so on last videos, I mentioned a couple of incidents. I made you guess. A lot of you guessed correctly who that was about not looking in the eye, shaking people's hands. It wasn't with me. And the best is videotape of it. You see it that taped on some of them placed on YouTube that proved my story about 4th of July. Comments, guys, oh, he's telling the truth. I was there, So I'm just reiterating stories in a visual. I'm trying to lead, it's like the crap game. You had Old Man Zoo. Old Man Zoo used to take care of the coffee in the crap game. We had the crap game upstairs in the club, in the apartment. And Old Man Zoo used to take numbers in Willie Boy's club on Utica Avenue. They brought him into the club. He would serve coffee. He was around a long time, Zoo. Nice guy, funny character, but serve coffee, serve sandwiches, and everything. Get things to the guys, and he made money. There was Zoo doing that. They brought guys around, and they gave guys, and the job wasn't a $20 job. I mean, I worked outside the car that day in the crap game for 2 days. I made myself 700-800 in tips. Be it that I had sat in a car, bringing me coffee, and I sat in a car with a pistol on the seat because them two junkies were robbing social clubs. They eventually got killed, on Woodhaven Boulevard, but that was that time. But guys working at the door got 100 a night, 100 a night cash. So if you're working 5 nights a week at a crap game, that's 500 a week cash, 1982, 83. That's a lot of money. For guys. And, they were all guys, associates, but they weren't just associates. We were guys that if we were called to settle a problem or get involved in a beef or to show strength or show, they were there. It was me, Jimmy Irish, no dog Jimmy Irish, Tony Roach, Sally, Sally Peck, Sally Bots, another guy, Tommy J. I like Sally, guys like that, Skinny Dom. Everybody had guys in there all had a propensity to handle a problem. That was it. And the level of toughness in the 80s, not just in our crew, went 2-3 levels. Kind of, I'm not glorifying the life now or then, but it was kind of, first time you thought you had brothers and family, you thought. For guys like us, it was I was there 7 days a week, morning, night, leave, go to Richie's Club, go out to dinner, then go out to drinks on Friday or Saturday night, Sunday. There was just Wednesday was dinner, Saturday, everybody came to the club, casual. I remember Johnny sending us to get food. Jimmy Irish said, "Mark, go take a ride, man. I got to go with Dominic's Hot Dogs by St. John's." Johnny wants 100 hot dogs. 100 hot dogs. You had to go there like an hour before lunch and get it. These people they see us go, "Uh-oh, how many does he want?" 100. All right, give me about 25 minutes. But it wasn't once. It was a habit. They spread the money around. So you never got caught, Give me a tab. Leave it on a tab. Unless you were Fat Bob. Fat Bob left tabs everywhere, but that's Fat Bob. Boston Bob, whatever you want to call him. Bob had a racket, but nobody left tabs. From Pete, Jackie, Tommy, Joey, Gene, Ansel. They went somewhere, you paid. So there was guys out there that left tabs now. They're pieces of junk because that's why they lose their friends who would stick up for them because it's about they've lost that sense of community. And community helps. You protect them, you protect their kids, you stop crime, you chase the junkies out of the way. Now that's gone. I mean, it's very if you see it, it's very minimal. So it was a special time in the 80s, late 70s, 80s. I mean, I got to tell you, so John used to play cards. I used to play Continental. And so sometimes Danny Wagons, Charlie Wagons' brother, Danny Fatico, was there. Charlie was already gone. I think Charlie had passed away at the time. He was, he like retired. So Danny's come around the club. So D'Angelo, Danny, John, whoever it be. Could be Joe Messina, could be Willie Boy. Anyway, they're playing Continental. During the day, it wasn't a Wednesday, 500 up just to kill time. It was winter time, it was snowing out. And Danny had a propensity to take his time. But Danny wasn't stupid. Danny was slow with his cards, but after a while, he used to annoy John and Angelo, and John would always had a comment. And after a while, you could see Danny was having fun. He was busting his chops. And he'd say, Danny was sitting there going to pick a card. And so Johnny would say, Danny, not that one, the other one. Hey, Danny, before we're all dead, before we got life in prison, you want to try out a card? Yeah. And then words would come out, and Danny would laugh. And Angel says, hey, Danny, I'm great and gray hair waiting for you to play. Pick up a card. And this is a conversation about picking up a card. After weeks and months, and Danny, he was a nice guy, Danny Wiggins, Danny Fowler. And he goes, and he was a friend of theirs. Danny would get a kick out of extending the wait time. After a while, says, you cocksucker, I adore you. I know you're doing it on purpose, but this is the events of guys and serious guys. This is their personalities. So when they had to be serious and be forceful, and they had it. They had I'm talking about not even a blink of an eye. I've seen it, guys smack guys, abuse guys, or, whatever, nothing, listen, let me put a situation about John Gotti, and I don't care what anybody says. John Gotti did not get to where he was in that life and rise up the ladder from being just a smart guy with charisma. I mean, let's put it in conjunction. His captain was Carmine Fatico, Charlie Wagons, who was a captain under Albert Anastasia. I ain't got to say nothing about the men. You notice Albert Anastasia, heard the name. Albert Anastasia's right-hand man was Agnello Della Croce. So Johnny was mentored and elevated by two guys around Albert Anastasia. So you think they raised him and up the ladder because he was good looking and dressed nice? It was no. They came from a part of the family that was pure, tough, balls, fearless. So for anybody to doubt John otherwise and how he got there in life, I can't tell you. It was before my time, but I just know just on people telling me. If you ever doubt that he took care of business when he had to, you're wrong. So instead of making assumptions of people, respect them. Just like if you're a good guy, you're a tough guy, I respect you. I don't have to like you, I don't have to do business, I don't have to hang around you. But if I say, oh, he's a tough guy, got some reputation. When I see you, I say hello, how you doing? You respect the guy. I don't gotta like you. So when you say things about guys like that, know the facts. Don't make assumptions, and don't listen to that old man that made his life off being a turncoat and lying to his family and friends. And don't listen to his stories because he didn't know him then. And a lot of them stories he's telling are lies because he's just trying to elevate himself. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't have to. But his stories about him claiming that his way was not that way, All I know is from the stories I heard from people that a lot of people didn't like him. And you people know who I'm talking about. And so for him to listen to his lies about how great he was and how special he was is sad. It's sad that he is constantly doing it. Listen, me, I was an associate, hung around, I'm a nobody. I left when I wanted to because of personal reasons. I wanted to, raise my son and be with my family. John went away. So, you have everything you have in that life and any life is your decision. You make the decision. So when you guys want to talk about, you want to go watch his show, listen to him, his word like his gospel. I feel for you because you're being misled, you're being lied to, and it's a shame. There's guys out there who tell the truth. There's guys out there who know the right stories. So when you follow somebody in life, don't follow them on what they tell you who they are. You follow them by their actions and the truth. And if you want to go online and pay guys some money and do things like that, it's wrong. I mean, I'm sorry. Uh, you know, they interview him on news channels. I don't watch news for that reason. How can you interview a guy like that? The guy's lying through his teeth, making up stories. You could see when he's talking, how he thinks, how he puts that down. It's a shame. And I have to say this. I know Kevin's going to come to you with some stories. He has them. I want Kevin to tell you because they're his stories, a couple of them, they're really good ones. Situations you don't know about. Working on Tony. Tony Chickens. We're going to do a documentary of him. You're going to love it. But we're going to, he's 94. It's hard. We're not New York. He's in New York. So I'm trying to get back there, trying to arrange something. I know you guys want to see Tony Chickens. He's got a lot of stories. I have a couple other guys, from the neighborhood that are good guys, just, associates, hang around, business guys that want to come on. And, I want to thank some guys who always support this, show. Mark, first time we talked in a long time. Nice, recognizing with you. Told me I helped him with the Christmas tree business. I said I never sold Christmas trees. I helped him with a problem, but good guy. My friend Vinny. Nice seeing you again. We had dinner. We had smoked cigars together. Good kid. I know him when he was younger. So Vinny, I see, we'll enjoy our cigars and our cocktails. Um, just guys like that, you want to be around them because they know it's the truth. Guys from overseas that support us from UK, Scotland, Australia, more stuff. I'm sorry about the delay in the show. To produce productions like this, the videos I shot in my house. I didn't like doing them and get the lighting, the sound wasn't right. So I'm gonna avoid doing that. I'm gonna be in a studio. I'm gonna have products up here that we use, that John used. You saw them, the Remy Martin, the Macanudos are part of his cigars. I'm talking to some companies now. Hopefully they'll sponsor us. Get my subscribers up. I'm doing great. Almost 25,000 in 3.5 months. 370,000 viewers, 13,000 likes. Because we're not telling like it is. You don't like the show, I can't tell you don't watch it. I don't want you to watch it if you don't like it because it's the truth. It's real guys. Me and Kevin, we got nothing to hide. We don't want to hurt nobody. But I think you fans out in the public who love this genre should know the inside stories, the personal effects of these guys. It's easy to tell, oh, this guy shot that guy. This guy was tough. This guy must have killed these many guys. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to tell you. So when this guy told, oh, he must have shot 10 guys. Unless I was there, I'll tell you that. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to assume. Anybody who assumes that about anybody, even in your mind, if you think or in your mind, keep it to yourself. I'm sorry. Guys are on reputations, not because, listen, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you he's a tough guy, fearless, and he did what he had to do without questions asked. You could surmise what that meant. If I was there, which I wasn't, I tell you, I wasn't there. I did a lot of bookmaking, a lot of card games, collecting money that people owed. That was most of it. You know what I mean? As I grew in LA, calling problems. Somebody got hurt, protecting them, going after a guy, smacking him around. That's another thing too. Yeah, sure. But so I hear that a lot. Oh, he must have killed 30. I don't know. How can you say that if you weren't there? What are you going to believe? police reports, media. Be truthful in your words. You know, you don't like a guy, you don't like a guy, you don't respect a guy. Why you want to transfer bad news to people? We're all in this. Whoever wants to, all the guys like me and Kevin. I did this because also I'm a writer. I wrote a bunch of screenplays, true crime, and there's a story I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell the right story. I want to tell a story about not just the picture you see and the walk you see and the media you see. I want to tell a story about every day. Listen, a lot of guys struggle for money. They hustled. A lot of them were hustlers. That was a hustle life. I don't care if you were even guys who were made guys even hustled. It wasn't as much, they're driving Cadillacs and buying mansions. Not happening. Very few had a lot of money and they gave everybody jobs. That's an old saying, there's an old saying in that life. He says, listen, I got my guys, I give them enough money to live and with no worries, but not too much money that they don't need me. Because that was that Machiavellian thing, you rather be loved and feared. They said the Bronx Tale. How do you think that them words in the Bronx Tale came out? Wise guys came up with them statements, would rather be loved and feared. You want to be both, but you give a guy a job, how much you need to live? Well, you're paying rent, got a kid going to school, want to buy a nice car, want to go out to eat once or twice a week. Here's $1,000 a week. It's $1,500. I could give you 5,000 a week, but I'm not, because at 5,000 a week, you become your own man, you do your own things, and I'm going to lose your, so they want to keep the guys in a circle. Then we coming back for more. That was that process. But it's like that if you work in corporate America. Listen, corporate America, they don't pay you to live. A lot of jobs now, listen, inflation went up 3,000%, but your jobs pays went up 20%. I want you in a scheme of things, figure that out. So when a wise guy makes a score or he's making money and he gives you money, he's not going. Well, he knows your rent's $2,000 and you got to eat, or what your rent's $500. He's not going to give you $150 because you're going to be gone. You're going to do something stupid. You're going to do something desperate. But the way that the corporate world works now, they're worse than the hoodlums. They want to pay guys. I'm going to give you $16 an hour. I want you to work 40 hours, take no sick days. And I'll give you a 50-cent raise every year. So you're giving me a 50-cent raise on $16 an hour. So what is that, 0.08% increase? But inflation went up 3%. So you're already 4 times behind the 8 ball. Wise guys didn't do that, because if you weren't making money, so when workers in the business, in the corporate world, they're cheating hours, they're robbing, stealing merchandise, stealing tools, they got to survive. You guys, the CEOs and the top echelons, are making a lot of money. Wise guys at the top made a lot of money, and it came from the bottom up. But if that guy wasn't making money and needed a job, you're not making money in the street? Go to work in this union, make yourself $25 an hour. I want to keep you around because you're a loyal guy, you're a good friend. If you're a thief, a liar, and a rat, you're gone. In the corporate world, they didn't care. You're just a number. They built no loyalty. So when you want to criticize going to job, listen, they made statements on TV. The working man's a stiff. No, the working man's not a stiff. The working man who doesn't understand the corporate world, the business world, he's a stiff. If you realize who you're working for and you give you no opportunity to advance yourself and make more money, then you got a time to move on. So in the street world, it's the same way. If I got guys around me, they're all broke, hungry, they're going to be desperate. Johnny, Jeannie, and Angelo, they made sure you always had a job or source of income. If you didn't, it's your fault. If you didn't ask for a job, it's your fault. If you asked for a job and they didn't want you to have a job, they wanted you to stay around them. I asked for a job. So, Johnny went to Tony Lee, and Jeannie went to Tony Lee, and he gave me a job in the number business. Easy job. 2 hours a week. I got paid $350 a week cash just to keep me around. But that was a job. So back then in 1984, 85, it was, it's 15, 20,000 a year cash. So it's like 40,000 a year, plus whatever I earned in a car game or a horse betting or bookmaking. So that you ask them, they give you. So the stupid part is guys like me loved the streets back then. You think that life would go on forever, and it didn't. So when you criticize that people in that life that hung out in that life, think about you in the corporate life of what they do to people. I'm not getting political, but I remember Donald Trump talking about the Democrats wanted to raise the minimum wage to $16. And Trump said, no, I want people to make $30 an hour because they can't live on $16 an hour. Well, that's the concept I'm getting at. I want, I want to pay you. Listen, if I'm living in a $5 million mansion with maids, traveling on a private jet, and my CEO income is $2 million a year, and you got guys that you rely on to make your business move, and they're struggling from paycheck, it's partially their fault for doing it. But what kind of guy is that? Okay, so you're making $5 million, make $4 million, take a little less, but you get better production. So in the mob life, in the street life, they gave guys living wages. And if you wanted to make more money, it was up to you. If you couldn't survive, you go, listen, I can't live with this money. I need more. There's guys, I can imagine, Fat Bob drove a Lincoln, had an apartment, dressed nice, gold shoes. He was John's valet. There's no way John was giving him $300 a week to live like that. So he gave Fat Bob enough money to live like that. But Bob also hustled on the side, but it didn't interfere with his duties. Guys like that. I worked a poker game, just a poker game, not the content game. Make $200. You work 6 hours. 1982, 6 hours, $200. It's a lot of money. Guys were working in construction, breaking cement for $15 an hour, coming home exhausted. Sure, they had a job. They worked 30 years. They got a pension. But I'm just saying, so them people, they didn't, they're from, guys are hungry because they didn't have any business acumen, didn't have any hustle. I mean, Johnny used to say, and I'll say it again, guys are sitting, I said, you could sit in them chairs all day long, get handouts from us. The money doesn't fall out of the sky. When we were young, we had to go get the money. Nobody gave us crap when they grew up. They were poor in the 50s. They were poor. We were out and hustled and connived and made our way, but learned what it took. They want you to do the same thing because now, listen, that life, you guys became a friend. Here, now go lend money, go earn money. Here's money, borrow for real cheap, lend it out for 2-3 points, make money. That's an earn. So if you got $100,000 and he's charging you $1,000 a week for it, you're lending it out for $3,000. You're making $2,000 a week in the 80s. Who's better than you? Now, if you're smart, the $2,000 a week, you're putting $1,000 aside to build your own nest egg so you can lend your own money out. But that they gave you the boost. Corporate world, the job world, please, come on, So I'm not saying it's bad. You want to go to work, go to work, be an honest job, but understand when that guy offers you that pay, it's up to you to make more money. He's not going to give you. He's going to give you that corporate nonsense, that bullshit raise. Ask, if I can't get more money, move on. So being around a Bergin, you don't want to hang out? Don't hang out. They didn't miss anything. A lot of guys want to go hang out with John and Jeannie and Angelo and Pete and all them. So open your mouth, be aggressive, show strength. So I tell these guys out there, like Kevin knows about it. They were with John, Angelo, Jeannie, they were straight. And I took I dropped Angelo Chinese food off. Angelo, I shouldn't be delivering food at night. You got guys saying, Mark, here, I want to give you money. I want to talk to you. I want to thank you. You didn't have to. I got in trouble, need a lawyer. Jeannie, Joey, here, go pay him. I said, you got to pay us back. So I go to pay him back. Forget about it. It's only teasing you. But that was, so the process is there. You just have to grasp it. I didn't know the realities of that life. There's a lot of mistrust, a lot of guys, because you have to weed your way through it. But I decided it wasn't for me. I walked away. I'm a man. I did what I wanted to do. Guys, if you ever think about you wanted to get, want to become a member. No, it never came to mind. I never thought about it. I just was enjoying my lifestyle, being around guys who I felt were a family, a brotherhood. So, and, I told you, John, Angel, and Jeannie, just because of their status, didn't ignore you, were friendly with you, never treated down at you unless you screwed up. You screwed up bad, you got scolded. But if you didn't treat you any worse, from Little John, the sweep-up guy, to Jimmy Irish, to me, Jackie, Tommy, Billy, he didn't get treated any differently. The line was, and so that's very intoxicating to a guy like me. Guys that don't pull weight. There's guys in that life that want to pull weight because insecure, they're lacking something. But those stories from Ozone Park, I mean, come on. I mean, it's walk down from Quartuccios to Gelatos to A&S Pork Store to Russo's Pasta Store to Rosemary's Bakery to Severoli's. You went all the way up the strip, and it was an Italian flavor. Now you won't even recognize. There's pockets of Italians in that area, Ozone Park, but not like it used to be. I used to go meet. God rest his soul, Tony Lee. He was hanging out when he was sick. He had stomach cancer, but he said hang out at Mike's Tavern on Liberty Avenue. He's always cooking. Mark, you come by. I'm making my nest. Oh, I'm making sauce and pepper. You come by and eat. You better come by. You don't come. But that was the personality, And this was a serious man. He was a long-time guy, Tony. But John was he says, he sent me. He says, I was Johnny the other day. He makes you laugh half hour, but he's always on the ball. But he can't be perfect. So he made a few mistakes. Situations happen. You get, and it happens in life. Generals make mistakes, presidents make mistakes, kings make mistakes. It happens. It makes mistakes. In that life, a mistake is treacherous. That's the problem. But there's, don't tread back on the negatives and try to, all that. So the Red Doors, I have years of episodes. I told you we're trying to build that place. I have the place. We're going to build it now. It's just a lot of work and a lot of finances. My friend Ty here is going to put a Cash App up. If you could help, it pays so we could do these weekly. I'm trying to stretch them out because I'm not begging for it. You don't have to do what you want. I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. I'm still going to have these. But, if you want to see the stories get more detail, more guests, and you want to see the interior of the club, you're going to have people hanging out there too. And you guys, so I want to thank you guys like Muggs. I know you're such a little kid. Good boy, Muggs. Chucky at Royal. You're always a good guy, Chucky. You were good to my son. Vinny, nice seeing you. Well, these guys are all good guys, friends of mine I know from 40 years ago. When they saw me, they got excited because, I teach you one thing. Don't try to burn bridges. Build friendships. I told to my son, and it helped him in his life. So the guys on YouTube, some of my friends, I'm telling you, you don't like them, you don't believe them, I'm never going to lie about them. They're my friends to this day. You know who you are. We've been through, we did we should go out together, have a little fun, got into a little trouble, and solve a few problems. But you want to talk about guys like they're, guys are dead. You want to talk about like he's a tough guy. I ain't gonna mention his name, but tough my ass. We had to go protect him, and he ran away on the fight. I tell you guys that ran away on problems they started that me and my friend, or even John, went to go settle, and they were gone. They didn't even hang around, didn't help. There's a lot of guys like that in our life. They walk with the talk and act, but they nothing. So that's my life. I'm not talking bad about nobody. I'm just telling you the truth. I have nothing against anybody. Somebody got something against me. You know what? I tell you to go. I tell you right to your face. I don't care. Me and Kevin, we're not here to talk bad. Just tell the truth. And the truth means a lot to us because we respect them guys. So this is here at the Red Doors for my taping. I hope you like it. The story explaining some things. I'm have Kevin back because the stories we have that you never heard before too, some are different stories about surprises, really serious stuff that me and Kevin did together. So it's good if we're together, bantering back and forth, and we'll try to discuss them for you. And, and maybe you could come up in the comments, tell us, oh, yeah, who was that? Oh, wow, that screwed up. But, when a show comes on, you're going to interact. We're going to shoot live. I'm going to have a live event. I'll put it together. I'm trying to coordinate with Kevin. We're going to have a live where you guys can come in and ask us questions and respond to your questions. I don't want no garbage. You don't like the show? You guys think we're just, shooting crap? Don't watch it. Go do something else. Go watch a episode of, CSI Crime Story or something like that. Don't watch us. Because you don't know, you're jealous, or you're just insecure with yourself. Go watch guys you like. But we're good guys. I want to thank my fans. I want to thank all my subscribers. Tell your friends. And all the guys just liked and shared it. Views, more to come. Enjoy the shows. I'll see you in a few days. I promise, with something special. Thank you guys. God bless. Stay safe. You and your family. Your family's all you got. And Big Mark, for Kevin and all my friends, the Red Doors will be back with something you're going to love. Talk to you soon. Have a good day.